Heather and Eliel on the show.
Wow, what a crowd. This is incredible. Let me just settle here for a moment. I've had the privilege of getting to spend some time with Elizabeth in the back room, and I've like kept my cool for the most part. But I just want to say thank you to Next Chapter, and particularly Tracy, for giving me this opportunity to talk to my absolute favorite author, and I really mean that. I have read every single one of Elizabeth's books, only one out of order. I don't know how many people here are like familiar with the multiverse, or but one of the great things about Elizabeth's books are that they do have a kind of interconnected quality to them. The characters show up in different books, but they're also very self-contained, so you can pick up any book. But this wonderful book, The Things We Never Say, is the first book out of that multiverse. So that's kind of a neat thing too. In addition to having read all of Elizabeth's books, I've also seen My Name is Lucy Barton on Broadway with Laura Linney, and my wife's Brownstone in Boston was used as part of the set for Olive Kitteridge's HBO film. All that said, never in my wildest dreams would I have imagined sitting across from you in my hometown of Huntington and getting to talk to you about this extraordinary book. It is a book that is so of this time. It really captures the polarization and the anxiety of our time, but does so with so much tenderness and so much love, which you're really known for. I'm going to start, my first question is I'm going to offer a disclaimer with my first question, which is Flannery O'Connor says, if anyone asks you what your story is about, tell them to read it. But you all have not had the opportunity to read it, so I'm going to ask you to tell them a little bit of what this book is about.
Okay, well, do read it. Or not, whatever. The book is about a man called Artie Dam. He's 57, and he is a high school teacher, very good high school teacher, loves his students, and it's about his time and place in history. And he has a son and a wife, and there are certain things that get revealed about the son and the wife as the book goes on. And he has to deal with it, and he does until he doesn't. But anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's great.
Anyway, I don't know. It's a different kind of book.
Yeah. For me, the book is really about what happens when we don't see each other and we don't listen to each other, and not only what happens to us as an individual when we don't have people in our lives who can hear us and see us, but what happens to relationships when that's not there, and then what happens to communities, and then what happens to countries, and then what happens to the world, the wider world. And so I think that the book really captures that, the scope of that as a kind of epidemic.
Yeah.
So you've talked about, I love always hearing how characters come to you, because you've described it as a kind of mythical experience.
It is.
Yeah.
It feels mythical to me, or it feels magical to me almost, because I honestly, the truth is, you guys, I don't know where they come from. So just know that's the truth. But I can tell you stuff which is also true, but not as interesting as the fact that I don't know. But I mean, for example, like Olive Kitteridge just showed up. I was unloading the dishwasher or loading or something, and she showed up right behind me. I could feel her, I could hear her, but that's because she's Olive. And I realized, okay, Olive didn't just show up. And then the second time she just showed up. And I understood, okay, that's Olive. And then with somebody like Lucy Barton, she showed up as her voice, which is why I had to write the Lucy books in first person, because it was her voice that came to me, much more than her physical presence. And it was her voice that was sort of breathy and hesitant, but trying to be honest. And so, and her voice was like a kind of a gold thread that came from the ceiling. And I kept thinking, okay, if I can capture that thread, then I can get Lucy on the paper. So that's how she showed up. And then these other people, but I mean, like Artie Dam, he feels so real. They all feel very real to me. But Artie feels very, very real to me. And I can only tell you that a few years ago, I have a friend who lives in upstate New York, and he'll send me different odd things every so often. And he sent me a page over the internet of obituaries from upstate in the 60s or 70s. I can't remember. But anyway, that's what he does. It's just that kind of, anyway. But there was, and I just remember looking, and there was this man whose last name was Dam, D-A-M-M. I have Artie Dam, D-A-M. But this one fellow whose name was Dam, and he had these gold-rimmed glasses, and he was so ordinary looking and so pleasant looking. And boy, did he stay with me. I can still see his picture. Now, that's not exactly what my Artie Dam looks like in my mind, but that was the beginning of Artie Dam for me, and I realized later that was where he grew from. And then my husband and I were in London at Christmas, and we looked, and there was Artie Dam sitting in a restaurant. And I Jim, there he is, there he is. He didn't have white socks, because we didn't have Artie wearing white socks yet. But we still refer to the restaurant as Artie Dam's place.
Oh my God. Did you take a picture of him?
No.
No.
I don't ever dare do that, no. But I was like, look at that.
I love that.
I don't know where they come from.
Do they show up fully formed, or do they, like, do you feel like you're creating them, or they're kind of revealing themselves to you as you write?
Both. And I'm not trying to split the hair. I'm actually trying to tell you truthfully that I am aware that I'm creating them. I'm perfectly aware of that. They're not being channeled. I'm not saying that. Not at all. I am aware that I am creating them and writing about them. But they're kind of sitting there waiting for me in a bizarre way. And so my job is to concentrate like crazy. Like when I work, I concentrate so hard on the character and just try deeply, deeply, deeply to feel what he is feeling, or she, but in this case Artie, and then to go where I find him going, even though I know I'm putting him there, but I feel like he's sort of going there and I'm following him, so I don't know how to, it's weird.
Do you find it's easier or harder to write from a male perspective?
I don't. I've never found that. I remember years ago, some woman asked me toward the end of it, I think I had just won the Pulitzer Prize, and she asked me rather unpleasantly if I didn't find it more difficult to write about men, and I said no. And then somebody else sort of picked up on her unpleasantness, and I never forgot. But the point is, no, I don't find it different. I mean, they are who they are, and my job is to be inside them as much as possible. So.
Yeah. Well, one of the interesting things about this book is, so you mentioned before that on the surface it looks like Artie has everything under control. Right. He's beloved by his students. He's married. He lives in a beautiful home on the water, and yet he's deeply, profoundly lonely.
Right.
And as we spend time with him, we can see why he is lonely. Is there anything that you were trying to explore at this particular kind of moment in cultural history around masculinity and loneliness?
No. No, I wasn't. I just don't think in terms of like that. That's not how my mind works.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to be Artie. And then I realized that he was quite sad at the beginning of the book, and I thought, well, it's a little early for you to be this sad.
Yeah.
What am I going to do? But then I figured out that I was writing what I felt was truthfully, when I mean, like, I felt like I was really with him, and this was what he was trying to present. So then I realized, oh, I had left little clues for myself without even knowing it. Because then I realized, oh, this is why he's feeling low. He doesn't know yet. But I know now, I understand there's something happening with his wife. I understand there's something happening with his son. He doesn't know it, but then we find out, I hope, you find out, and then you're like, oh, he wasn't just feeling lonely. He had reason.
Right.
And then he gets over it and continues on. But anyway, no, I wasn't writing about masculinity and loneliness, except that I was, I guess.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to.
Yeah. Well, I think because he even sort of reflects on whether his father had friends, right?
Right. Right. He begins to think a lot more about his father. His mother was always a little bit more present in his mind, but he begins to think a lot more about his father as he goes on through the story for a variety of reasons. And I think also as we get older, we do think maybe a little more about who was my father, who was my mother, but anyway, so he's thinking more about his father and realizing I don't even know if he had really good friends.
Well, tell us a little bit about the time and place that you decided to set the story. It's on the cusp of the 2024 election.
It's right. The election happens, and it's really the book itself takes place in about 4 months, or from June to January, but then there's an epilogue which flashes ahead for 3 years. Anyway, what was your question was about
why that time period?
Well, he was a history teacher, and that was when, and I was writing during that time, and I thought he's a history teacher. He's going to be aware of what is happening in the country in a way that other people might not be fully aware, and therefore I'm going to have to make him be very aware of everything. And it also has an effect on his life. His son has to leave his job with the government and go someplace. So it's affecting Artie's life, these decisions that are happening, as they do affect our lives bit by bit by bit. And so it was Artie's time and place in history. And when I was writing Amy and Isabel, the first book that I wrote that was published. Anyway, I do remember when I wrote that book, I realized, literature is about place and time. Because if you are born in a place and you live in a particular time in history, you throw in a character, you'll have a story.
Yeah.
So you've got to have the place and the time, and this is Artie's place and time.
One of the things that Artie spends a lot of time thinking about is this question of free will.
Yeah.
And talk to us about that.
Right. Well, like I said, Artie's 57. He's been, sort of rolling along with his life. And I don't know. A number of years ago, I was sitting with a friend of mine, and she just all of a sudden said, I don't believe in free will. And I was like, really? Honestly, it had just never even occurred to me that somebody wouldn't believe in free will. She said, no, I don't think so. And I was amazed. And so I've been thinking about it ever since.
Wow.
Not constantly. It's sort of like, well, how does she think that? How could she think? But anyway, so that has been sort of going on and off in my mind. And I realized Artie's older. He's going to actually wonder about that in a different kind of way.
Yeah.
As he's entering his period of what feels to him to be solitude for the moment.
And it kind of resonates later when you see what is really kind of haunting Artie.
Right, exactly. And hopefully you'll be wondering, is there free will?
Yeah.
I think there is a little wiggle room. But I'm just saying, but anyway, that's what happened. Just years ago, that woman said that to me, and I never got over it.
One of the reviews I read was saying how Artie is circling this question of free will, but that it feels like you, as the author, are also questioning decency and civility and kind of what happened to that. And I was curious if that resonated, if that felt true to you.
Well, I mean, I just copped up about the free will stuff. But again, I don't think I think about decency. I mean, I would like to think I think about it, but I don't consciously think about anything except the character I'm writing about.
Yeah.
And it's not until after I've written the book that I realize, oh, I guess there's a theme here. You know, maybe there's a theme of loneliness or not being seen, or a theme of, you know, something. But I don't think about that when I'm writing. I'm really, really, really just trying so hard to be that character.
How, when you, because you're returning to that, and so I'm curious, what does that actually kind of look like or feel like for you?
Oh, it's exhausting, but it doesn't feel exhausting when it's happening because it's happening, you know. So, but it's a strange thing. It's like there's nothing to visualize. It's like I'm just sitting there. But I'm really sitting there. You know, I'm really, really, everything else has gone away for a moment. And I am just trying to get inside him and put something down that I think and hope has a heartbeat to it. That's what I would call it. If I have a scene with a heartbeat, it stays. If it doesn't have a heartbeat, it goes.
Oh, I love that. How do you determine if it has a heartbeat?
Because I know. I know.
Yeah.
At this point, I know. Yeah. Years ago, I could sort of fool myself. But no more. I know. Yeah. I know. Just throw it out, get rid of it. Come on.
Yeah. Actually, that was going to be one of my questions, because you're known for being a really kind of economic, lyrical, precise writer. And from a craft perspective, I was curious how you decide what to take out. But it sounds like that's part of the process.
Yeah, I will rewrite a sentence as I'm writing it. You know, I will just keep, because it's always in the sentences. It's always in the sentences, and how the sentence falls on your ear as the reader. And it needs to have a quality that is genuine and falls on your ear gently, or with something that makes you want to continue to be in the presence of that voice. So that is very important to me, and at this point in my career, I've learned more quickly than I used to learn when that's happening, you know, and then, and so, but I will rewrite a sentence as I'm writing it, or I will rewrite a whole page, you know, but it differs from book to book, you know. I learned a lot writing Amy Isabel. I learned a lot about that. That was many, many pages longer than it turned out to be. And I realized, okay, we don't need all this.
Do you read your work out loud to yourself?
See, this I used to, and then I realized, I've gotten so good at lying to myself that I can actually read this as though it sounds good.
Yeah.
And then I thought, can't do that anymore. I can't read it to myself anymore because I'm lying to myself, because I'm going to pretend that it sounds good.
You've gotten so good at it that,
And I was like, oh, this sounds good. And then I'm like, oh, that's because you're making it sound good. So then I realized, okay, so then what I started to do was leave a manuscript around the house and come across it. You know, if I was just cleaning up, I don't clean up that much, but you know, we can pretend I do, because we should know I do. So if I was cleaning up, let's say, straightening up a table or something, you know, I would come up behind it and I would pick it up, and if it, you know, without meaning to really see it, and then if I read just the first couple paragraphs and I thought, oh, that's okay, that stands, then I would know, okay, that's good. But if it didn't stand up, when I took it by surprise, I would realize, oh.
I love that. Take it by surprise.
Yeah.
So you talk a lot about trying to get to certain truths in your writing. I also read how you used stand-up comedy to do that. Tell us about that.
Oh, really?
No, you don't have
to. All right, just really quickly. I had been writing for years and years and years, and nobody was interested. And when I first moved to the city 40 years ago, I was very interested in comedy, and we used to go to this little stand-up comedy clubs in the East Village, and what I understood right away was that if somebody said something true, people would laugh. And I thought, that's so interesting. And then I began to think, as the years went by and nobody was interested in my work at all, I began to think, am I not telling the truth? Is there something I'm not telling the truth about? And then I thought, well, what would happen to me if I was in charge of a bunch of people and I had to make them laugh? Which was the most horrifying thought I could think of. But I did it. So I took a stand-up comedy class at the New School, which was scary enough. Very scary. Every week somebody dropped out. But those of us who made it through, we had to go as a final exam, go and actually perform at the comedy club on 88th Street. And I did. And I didn't tell anybody, I wouldn't let anybody come. And it was so terrifying. But it worked. Because the thing that I had developed for that semester that I actually presented, and can I just brag and say, they did ask me to come back and audition. I said, absolutely not. Seriously, I really think that myself took probably 2 or 3 years off my life. But the point is, it worked. Because it wasn't until I wrote that, whatever you want to call it, that thing I did, that I understood, because I had just moved to New York and I didn't know that I was from Maine. I mean, I'm really from Maine, and I didn't even know that because I'm so much from Maine.
Yeah.
I was such a white woman from Maine, I didn't even know. I didn't know I was a white woman from Maine. And then having moved to New York and understood that there's many different cultures in New York, I realized, oh, so I made fun of myself being an uptight white woman from Maine. And then I wrote about Isabel Goodrow, who was an uptight white woman from Maine. I mean, I'm not Isabel, but it was like, oh, I see. I have to go back to Maine, and that. So it worked, but
you had to work for it.
Oh, it was terrifying.
What is the truth you feel you were trying to get across in this new book? Is there?
Oh. Well, I gave up thinking about the truth after.
Okay.
I was like, okay, whatever. I had to do Maine. I had to go back to the Maine. Again, I just wanted Artie to be truthful. I just wanted to capture his real self, whatever that means.
You were talking earlier about how Artie's relationship with his son Rob, that becomes a source of, because the book begins with something's off and we don't know what, and then there's this revelation. At what point in the process did you realize that was going to be the source of one of the issues that was contributing to his sadness?
It wasn't until I sort of got there. It was interesting. Like I don't know what's going to happen when I'm writing. I don't have any sense of beginning or end. But so it wasn't until I was writing Artie, but like I said, I had left clues to myself, and I realized, oh, that's okay. So that's that. Oh, and then and
there's a lot of O.
Yeah.
There's a lot of O.
A lot of O's. And
Yeah.
then it sort of was already laid out there for me, and I realized, oh, wow, Artie.
Yeah. He's in the thick of it for sure.
Yeah.
And you don't even really fully realize the extent of it until the very end, which is kind of great.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's any coincidence that Artie is a history teacher, but there is there's a particular scene where Artie asks his students to tell him about like how they imagine their futures.
Right.
It's such a beautiful, beautiful scene.
Right.
What inspired that scene?
You know, I went back because I thought Artie is a teacher. He's really a teacher. He has watched these students change during the pandemic. He's watched them change with the social media. He's making them take away their, he's trying to do his best. And I thought, let's just go back into another classroom scene. And I thought, okay, so he's going to ask them how they see themselves. And they just almost couldn't even answer that question. And I know some people of that generation.
Yeah.
And there is a tremendous amount of anxiety among these people, and I realized this. And I had talked to high school teachers, teachers that are teaching high school today. I talked to them to make sure that I was not wrong about all this, but but the anxiety that they're feeling was very real to me and to Artie as well. And so I just thought that was a way that we could see Artie in action and also the students in action.
Yeah, and to show how he kind of channels his sense of hopelessness into something positive.
Right. He loves those students.
Yeah. As a mother of a 14-year-old, I think you nailed it. And I will tell you, we asked our son like that exact question, what do you imagine for your future? And he said he like sees himself as an F1 driver, but that it would take $30 million to get him there. So we're pushing him towards like, engineering. Yeah. True. So last question. You've talked about how what it feels like to you really long to know what it feels like to think and you learn from Artie. What did you learn from spending all that time with him?
I just loved him. I mean,
he's very lovable.
I learned what I've been learning increasingly as I write, which is that for people to be seen, to truly be seen, even just for a few moments, by someone who loves them, it's transformative. It makes so much difference if we can feel that we've been seen just a couple of times a week even, just really see who I am and get me for 2 seconds. That's so important to all of us. And I've understood that more and more as I look back at my work, and that's what I've been writing about. But I've always wanted to know what it felt like to be another person, and I was probably about 10 or 11 or 12 or something when I realized, I'm never going to know what it feels like to be another person. And I never got over that. I never got over it. It was very distressing to me. And that was just about the time that I remember I read a book. I have no memory of what the book was, no memory of what the sentence was, but whatever the sentence was, I do remember thinking, I've had that thought. And that's when I realized that in fiction, we can get the idea of what it's like to be inside somebody else's head and maybe even recognize ourselves. And that was so exciting for me that I just thought, I have to do this. So I just have to make up people so I can be inside their heads, and then maybe you can recognize one tiny sliver of them and feel not so alone, or maybe you'll think about your neighbor differently for 2 seconds. So.
Well, one of the other beautiful things about this book is it's not just being seen by the people that you love, although that's very important. It's also to show how even these small moments of kindness and of being seen by strangers.
Precisely. Precisely. Strangers will do it as well, frankly. And I'm telling you, I have come to realize more and more over these last many months that to be kind to a stranger is no small thing. There's no such thing as a small act of kindness. I don't believe it. I think that if you're genuinely kind and it is received and you exchange something, then it is helpful to all of us.
Yeah. Wow, I love that. Beautiful. Beautiful.